Okay guys, in today's video I would like to talk a little bit about anger because I think that it's a very interesting emotion and it is one that I never truly learned to express properly growing up. Because my parents, they are very uncomfortable with anger, especially my mom. She is someone who doesn't feel comfortable when somebody expresses anger or with her own anger. And I actually had a conversation with her about this where she told me that, well, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the energy to be angry. So I don't let it in my system. I don't let it there. And I don't necessarily have to express it. Okay? But I always felt like there was some kind of resistance against anger. And I never learned to properly express it because it always got suppressed in a way. Oh, you don't need to be angry, or you don't need to be loud about it. Okay, there is no need to express this anger. And so growing up, anger became this emotion that I never truly learned to express properly. It never got validated. It was never told that it's okay that I'm angry. I've never heard this in my life, that it's okay to be angry, all right? And so I had to go through a process of working through this emotion and learning to express it in healthy ways and validating it for myself, right? That's a video that I recorded a few days ago, is to validate your own emotions. Because our parents, most likely your parents too, they have their own problems, they have their own struggles, they are uncomfortable with certain emotions. They got brought up in a family that might not have been tolerant of anger or sadness or whatever it may be, okay? So they are not necessarily comfortable with these emotions. They are not validating these emotions for themselves. And so how are they supposed to do that for you, right? I've never actually had my anger validated by my mother, never, because she is extremely uncomfortable with this emotion. So she tries to resist it within herself and within her children. Okay, so I had to really learn to understand that my mother has difficulties with anger. Okay, and that caused me to see this as an example of how you should deal with anger. But I felt like it twisted and morphed within me because I was never really able to express it properly. Okay, and there's healthy ways to express anger. Okay, and it starts with validating the fact that you feel angry. It's okay to feel angry. Angry is actually a very powerful, motivating emotion. Okay, it shows where your boundaries are. It can drive you forward. It can drive you to speak up. Okay, anger is not a bad emotion in and of itself, okay? When you repress it, when you suppress it, when you think that by being angry you will get your needs met, okay? That is a problem, all right? But getting angry because your boundaries are being crossed, or getting angry at yourself because you know you can do better, that is not a bad thing. Okay, now the healthy ways to express anger are ways that I needed to discover for myself, all right? If you identify with the anger, if you tell people I am angry, then that means you need to act out the anger. But you don't want to do that because in an angry state, you're way more likely to make bad decisions, all right? Think back to a moment where you were angry, where you felt angry, and you decided to let that anger take over. Did you make good decisions in that moment? Okay, or were there more likely to be decisions that you later regretted? Right? So that's why, again, I'm speaking from my personal experience. Again, I'm just a guy on the internet sharing his experiences. I don't claim to have all the answers, and I am also still learning. So for me, healthy ways to express anger, for example, is to go outside in nature where nobody can hear me and scream and shout really loudly, okay? That helps me to get the energy out. Because if I keep it in, and that's what I used to do when I was younger, it attaches to my emotional, energetic body and it twists and morphs stuff. It fosters. And it's not good, because then it expresses itself in passive aggressiveness, resentment, sadness, right? You don't want to do that. When the energetic charge is there in your body, validate it. It's okay that you feel angry right now. It's absolutely okay and totally normal. And it's a good thing, because it means that you can feel. It means that you're a human being, all right? But you want to allow yourself to create some space between the feeling of anger and then acting, okay? Every time I got angry at someone, it was almost always because there was a boundary that was crossed, okay? Maybe it was disrespectful behavior, maybe it was something that I thought was not appropriate, and in that moment I was not really aware of what was going on because of the anger, because of the confusion, because of the, the sudden moment or the sudden thing that happened, all right? But since I practice meditation daily, I luckily have the skill now to notice that I'm angry, to validate that I'm angry. It's okay that I feel anger right now, okay? To potentially express it in that moment if I'm not near someone and I can be loud and shout, then I will do it, okay? Because nobody suffers from that if I'm doing it outside in the nature somewhere, all right? And then after reflecting on it, I can trace back what specifically made me really angry and what boundary got crossed. And then when my mood is back to baseline, when I'm no longer angry, I can address this topic with that person that I'm angry at or that I felt angry with. And that's a good thing, because it can create more trust in the relationship. It can solve problems, all right? And that's why I think that learning to validate your own emotions, learning to express, for example, anger in a healthy way is really important, because it can truly help you transform yourself and the relationships in your life with other people, okay? So I just wanted to share this little experience with you guys, because perhaps some of you have difficulties expressing anger. And I want to reframe that for you, because I grew up feeling like it was wrong for me to feel angry and to behave angrily, okay? But there is such a thing as healthy anger, and there is such a thing as toxic anger. And so by increasing your awareness around this emotion, by understanding that maybe your parents suppressed their own anger and they were not comfortable with the anger within themselves, and that is what you picked up on growing up, and that is why you now feel uncomfortable with anger yourself. Maybe your mother was always, quiet, or she was angry but she didn't know how to express it, and she resisted it within herself, and that is what you pick up on for all these years, and now you have issues or problems with experiencing and expressing healthy anger. Okay, so it's important to become aware of that, because if you are not aware where it kind of originated, you can't really change your relationship with anger. And I went through a lot of different stages where I overdid the anger, where I was very angry a lot of the times, but now I can tone it back and I can cultivate a healthy relationship with anger, because it's, again, absolutely valid. When you feel angry, it usually means that there is a boundary that's being crossed, okay? And so your brain jumps into fight or flight mode. So there is not too much logical sense to it in that very moment, okay? Validate that. It's fine that you feel angry. You don't have to hurt someone. You don't have to become passive aggressive, okay? Those are toxic negative behaviors. But being angry in and of itself, feeling angry in and of itself, it's not a bad thing, okay? And you can really use this energy to improve your relationships with either yourself or other people. It can make you aware of certain things. It can make you aware of where your boundaries are, okay? Again, emotions are indicators, not dictators, okay? So the anger doesn't have to dictate your behavior in that moment. Your anger can indicate where your boundaries lie. And so if you struggle with expressing anger in a healthy way, it might be because your parents or your authority figures were not comfortable with expressing this emotion themselves. They were not comfortable with this emotion in themselves, okay? And it's usually what happens with all sorts of emotions. Think about this in your own life. Maybe at some point somebody was very, very sad and it made you feel uncomfortable. Well, most likely that is because you are not comfortable with your own sadness. Same thing, somebody might be extremely joyful and happy and playful, and it kind of puts you off a little bit. You judge it. You are not comfortable with this person being so happy, okay? Probably, most likely, it's because you have difficulties with this emotion within yourself. You're resisting it or you're judging it within yourself, right? This is very, very important to understand, because once you do, you can then use your reactions that you have towards other people's emotions as indicators, as guideposts towards your own issues around these emotions and around these behaviors and thoughts and feelings, right? And that can lead to a lot of personal insight, okay? Personally, I sometimes feel a little bit uncomfortable when somebody is super positive and joyful and upbeat. I feel like they're faking it, or they try to get something out of me, okay? But that is simply because I still have to work through the fact that I would like to be joyful and playful, and sometimes maybe I judge it within myself, and sometimes I think that it's silly, right? There is judgment there, and that is why I sometimes feel uncomfortable with other people being upbeat and open and playful, right? Same thing with the anger. It's years and years and years of conditioning where my mom is, well, you don't have to be angry, don't be so loud, don't feel. Basically what they say is, you are not okay for feeling the way you feel. Okay, as a child, that is how you interpret this. When somebody, your parent, tells you to shut up or to not feel the way you feel, okay, this means that you are not worthy. Actually, this is what it means on a deeper level. That is how, as a child, you perceive this. I am not okay. I feel angry. My parents don't accept that I feel this way, so I'm not okay. All right? So understanding this and working through that is incredibly powerful and really healing, okay? Because now I can feel angry and it's okay, okay? Whatever you feel is valid. Learn to validate your own emotions, because this is the step to self-love. This is a step to self-acceptance. If you keep rejecting your own emotions like your parents used to do, okay, you will never be able to fully accept yourself, okay? Usually we get, appreciated, or we get attention by behaving in a way that our parents approve of, okay? So it's conditional almost, right? When we are happy, or when we are working hard, or when we are smiling, our parents are giving us attention, love, and care. That means we are good, okay? We are worthy of their attention. But when we are, for example, angry and our parents are not comfortable with this anger, we get punished for that. So we are no longer okay, right? But as a human being, we feel the whole range of emotional responses and emotions. That is why we are human beings. That's exactly the reason that our lives can be so rich, right? Because we can be angry, we can feel sad, we can feel joy, we can feel excitement. All these emotions, they are part of us being human. You are human, so whatever you feel is valid. It's not conditional. It's not that when you feel angry, you're less worthy than when you feel happy, okay? But since certain people are uncomfortable with certain emotions, and my parents probably got it from their parents, okay? It goes back generations ahead. Like it's so complex. All right, it's not just this person and that person. No, it's a very large system. Okay, it's embedded in a very large system. So you becoming aware of the fact that your parents or your caregivers are also just people who struggle with their problems and who have resistance towards specific emotions. Well, they can only behave the way they do, and you see this as an example, or you see this conditions you into believing that it's not okay to feel angry. But it is absolutely okay to feel whatever it is that you feel, okay? It's valid. The only thing you need to stay aware of is how do you act whenever you feel a certain way? What do you do? Because if you're angry and you hurt someone, that's a problem. But if you feel angry and you mention that you feel angry, you maybe even shout in the nature where nobody can hear you, that is a good thing. That is perfectly okay, right? So make a distinction between you feeling a certain way and attaching your level of worthiness to that feeling. You're not unworthy because you feel sad or angry or disappointed or whatever it may be. And it's absolutely valid that you feel this way. It's perfectly valid, right? I used to feel unworthy because I was angry. I used to feel unworthy because I felt sad. Because it was something that my parents were not comfortable with and they judged it. Anger way more than sadness. Sadness is quite comfortable and accepted, okay? But anger is not. But I sometimes felt angry and then I felt unworthy, okay? So instead of attaching your worth to specific emotions, you want to remove it from that and you want to understand that everything, or the whole range of human experience includes all these emotions, and you're not less of a person because you feel X. It's valid, okay? But be aware that you don't allow yourself to get sucked into this emotion too much and you act in subconscious ways that is causing harm to other people, because then it becomes a problem. Then you should judge it, okay? Because you shouldn't inflict harm on others by your emotions. You should be able to control yourself in a way, okay? You can allow yourself to feel a certain way, okay? Because that is what it is. It's valid, but you have to control your behavior. You have to learn to control your behavior, because otherwise it causes hurt and pain and suffering and damage, and that's not what you want, okay? So meditation can really help you with that. It can create the space between the feeling and what you do, right? So when you feel angry and you meditate a lot, you will notice that you're angry. You will be able to create a space between feeling angry and wanting to say something mean. And then after you had some time to calm down, because your body is physiologically aroused, okay, so you can't think straight. But if you allow the space and the time, then your level of arousal will drop and you can again start to think straight, and then you can come up with what it was, where was the boundary that was being crossed, and then you can communicate it to the other person, and you can actually create a positive relationship that way, that is based on feedback, that is based on supporting one another, all right? So that's a beautiful benefit of anger, for example, because it can really create an opportunity for you to connect more deeply with someone and tell them where the line is. And if you do this respectfully, they will respect you more, you will respect yourself more, and the relationship will thrive. Okay, so this is just something that has been on my mind for a little while, and I thought it could be interesting for you to learn about this. Okay, think back to your own childhood. What was the relationship with your parents like? Okay, how was their relationship to specific emotions? Were there certain patterns? And do you notice difficulties expressing or processing certain emotions within yourself? If that's the case, it's most likely because your parents were also not necessarily comfortable with these emotions, and you saw that this is not okay growing up, all right? And the next stage then is to forgive, okay? To forgive yourself, to forgive your parents. They're just people just like you, okay? They have their own issues. So forgive them for feeling resistance against these emotions. Forgive them for doing the things they did, because they're also not perfect. Nobody is perfect, okay? And everybody is constantly learning. So the next stage is forgiveness. And once you tap into that feeling of acceptance and forgiveness, you can start to heal, all right? Everything changed when I realized, okay, my mom, she saw this in her family, and probably their family saw this in their family. So it's not her fault that she feels uncomfortable with anger. It's not her fault. And it's also not her fault that she did the things she did, okay? That she kind of suppressed it within me, and that I felt unworthy because of that. It's not her fault. Let me forgive her. Let me forgive myself. And once you do that, you can let it go. And it's very, very healing. And now I can express anger in a healthy way. I can express anger as something that can help me grow and help the people around me grow, right? So that is what I wanted to share with you today. I hope it was helpful. I hope it made you think or realize a few things, because it took me a long time to understand this. And it absolutely changed my relationship with my parents, with my partners, with my friends, with myself, and with the emotions that I was experiencing. So again, learn to validate your own emotions. Nobody is going to do that for you. And you're not worth less because of specific emotions. You're worth as much as you always are, and whatever you feel is right, okay? It is true. Whatever you feel is true. You don't need to justify that. You don't need to do anything. You just allow it to be there. You move past it because it's going to change, and then you can draw the lessons from it, and you can use these emotional responses as indicators, because they're really not dictators. All right, guys, I want to thank you so much for your attention, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.